Hello, friends. Good evening and welcome. Please, can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that's fine. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening session. And my name is Samson Emelike. In tonight's meeting, we are going to be looking at visualizing data using spatial charts. To facilitate in the training is myself and from Jennifer Smith. Also to support is Mr. Roy. This evening, it's going to be a starting point of what it's going to look like, a very wonderful time in using spatial charts to visualize our data. So as preamble, just to let us know that we are streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and we would like everyone to mute their mics if they are not speaking, so that we will not get so much noise and distraction. And then it's also good for every one of us to be very, very ready with the practice file. Mr. Roy, please share the link to the practice file on the chat box. So
shared
that,
already. It's on the chat box.
Okay, that's fine. We just keep sharing it. As more people join, they will see that. So we are going to start the session with this data that we have. Let's look at where we want to be. We want to be able to develop this chart such that it changes when the value changes. It shows you the progress of your project, the progress of the performance of your unit, or it could even be an individual or an entity. So this is where we want to be. This is number one place. So this is a simple progress chart. And then we will also come over here to see how this can be like a scoreboard where the color codes are assigned to the numbers, so that when you perform, the progress chart just shows you the color of your grade. Okay, so assuming now that we are looking at the different zones, and then we have the different scores, and then the chart is changing accordingly. So these are the places that we want to be. And here is our starting point. So the session is going to be in 3 sessions. First, we are going to look at this data and then use pivot table to analyze it, and then begin to create the progress charts, simple and the conditional. So I'm hoping that in the next 15 minutes, we should be done with creating a pivot table out of this. So the first step that we need to take when working with pivot table is to see how that table, the data sets are arranged. Hello, so please, the noise, let's mute everyone. The noise is too much. Okay. Roy, Mr. Roy, you can mute people from there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. That interruption. We just need to make sure that the environment is calm. Okay, so what we need to do is we want to use this data, like we say, this is the data that we are going to use and analyze using pivot table so that we'll be able to get those details for us to run the progress charts. Now, if you look at the way this is presented, it does not give us the ample structure of a data that we need or data set that we need to run a pivot table. So there are some steps we are going to take. The first step is that we are going to change this into a format that can easily be analyzed using pivot table. So the step is, you see these dates here, these months here, they ought to be under one column, okay? They ought to be under one column so that you will see this Edo state. Edo is looking at January 2020. Then that same January 2020, we are going to see the target and we are going to see the yield or the performance. The same thing, Edo will also look under the same month again, is going to look at February. Okay, so we are going to use Power Query to transform this data to the format that we want. Like we tried to explain in the videos that we shared yesterday, the training that we are embarking upon right now is for special charts. It is not for pivot table and it is not for Power Query. We may find a time to do that. And so I'm not going to waste time to explain why I am doing certain things to arrive at where we want to be, because this tutorial is not for pivot table and it is not for Power Query. So we just need to set that tone at the beginning. We can ask questions on how we are creating the chart, because that is the purpose of tonight's session. Okay, so for those of us who understand Power Query and pivot table, please, let's go along. For those who this may be the first time or they are still beginners, we may find some other time to look at the pivot table and Power Query. So right now, we are looking at the data. It's a hypothetical data. It is not real. This vaccination campaign did not happen. And so we are using Nigeria as a country, and we're using the 6 geopolitical zones alongside the states that are under each zone. Now, let me explain this data. What this means is, this is the target, the monthly target per se. So every month, the state will look at this target and run its campaign. And then at the end, it yields this. The next month, it looks at this same target and then run its campaign, and this was the yield. So for each month of the year 2020, these targets were in focus, and then the campaigns were run, and these were the yields. Okay. Now let's transform this using Power Query. So click inside, I've come to data. I'm going to get data and transform. So I'm coming over here and I'm going to load the Power Query after it has selected all that I want. So here we are. And what I really need to do is to transform this January up to December. You can see it here, January to December. I want to bring all of them under one column so that the next table that I'm going to create, I will have all these ones entered under one column. So I'm clicking here and selecting up to December, and I'm going to pivot the selected columns. So this has changed. this is now the month. And this month, actually, it's dates format, so it has changed. And then the values, it's, let's say, vaccination, right? So this was the vaccination that each state was able to achieve. All right, so these are the only thing we need to transform here. When we do analysis on Power Query, then we'll be able to know, we'll be able to learn how to use the Power Query. Mr. Roy, please keep sharing as people are joining, keep sharing the link to the file so that they can have access to it. All right. We also shared it's the video that we created out of this. We also dropped a link in the description of that video for easy download. But we are again sharing it here in this session. All right, so having done this, let me name this query now. Let's say I'm going to use demo. Let's say demo 1. This, we know that this is demo 1 query, right? So anywhere we see, we know that this is what we want. So right now, we are going to close and load this so that we can have it in this point. All right, so this is the Power Query. Now you can see that we have transformed this, not this, where is that, where we started from? Okay, actually, I was supposed to work on the, let me see. I'm trying to find out where is the original data that we worked with? Okay. Okay, yeah, this is it. We changed it, we converted it to table before inserting the Power Query. So this is where we started from. You can see already that these months that are arranged in this fashion, see the way it has been transformed now. All of them are right now under one column. So this is what we want to do. Now from here, we can now insert our pivot table. Again, this is not a pivot table session, but and so we're not going to pay so much attention on how it is done. So I'm going to insert this onto a new sheet, which is this. And our focus is on the zones. And we are looking at, let's look at what we are looking to achieve. We want to see the score, okay? The score in this case, we want to see what was the total target for the year. Remember that each month has a target. So it's going to be combined, the sum of all the targets, and then the sum of all the vaccinations, all right? So let's carry, when we come to the pivot table fields, we are looking at the targets. Okay, so this is the total target of the entire campaign. Let me format this so we can see the number separated by the 1,000 separator. All right, so, and then the next thing we are looking at is the vaccination. All right, so again, let's put this, format this to get our number separated by the 1,000 separator. So I'm going to insert 2 slicers right now. The first one is the zone, and let's also use the months. No, let's say all that we want is the total for the 1 year. So what is telling us right now is, if I want to see the performance of North Central, this is the North Central, all the states under North Central, their total target for the year was 82,000 plus. and then the yield or the vaccination was 42,000. So the same thing, if I click any of this, I'm just filtering out the value that I want to see. Okay. Now, another good thing that we want to do now is let's have a filter column there so that anyone we filter will see the name there. So since we are interested in looking at the zones, we'll have our filter here so that any zone that we click, we'll see it here and we'll see the value here. Now, we need to get the percentage performance. And that percentage performance is going to be this, that's the vaccination all over the target multiplied by 100. So that is what we want to use and plot on the progress chart. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to the pivot table to bring in the calculation. So I go to my calculated field and I'm going to create a new field, which we can call performance, for instance. So this is performance. And then how do I define this performance? This is a calculation. What's the formula? The formula is going to be the vaccination all over the target. We add it. So once we okay this, it comes over here. So right now, North Central is performing, this is equivalent to 48%, but let's go ahead and convert this to percentage. So percentage, let's use 1 decimal point. So this is 48.2%. Now let's test each of these. So Northeast is 53.8, and of course, Northeast is here. Northwest is shows here, and so on and so forth. All right, so let's see if we can run some formatting on this. This is, let's get it 3 into 3 columns. All right, so we are done with this. All right, so it's now easy for us to run our analysis. So what we want to do right now is to display this particular performance. We want to display this performance on a progress chart. Okay, so this is where the analysis comes to an end. And I'm going to pause for a minute or two. If anyone has any question, you can chat. You can send in the chat box, or you raise your hand to speak. And then after this, I will invite pharmacist Jennifer to take us through the first progress chart class. Okay, so I think Kenny's hand is up. Roger, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I think I got lost a little bit during you were going to the what's it called?
Power query.
Power query, yeah. So how does it relate with what we're doing now? Because at least I know you've taught us some time ago about pivot table. At least I understand this pivot table aspect. So how does it relate with the power query? That's where I got lost.
Okay, when we look at the data, the nature of the way these data sets are presented, they are not in a way that suits a pivot table, analyzing with pivot table. You can see all the months are running across the columns, whereas all of them are supposed to be under one column. So we need to transform this. And that is where power pivots, power query comes to play. So we use power query to convert it to this. So we now use pivot table to analyze it. So that's the connection between the power query and the pivot table and what we are doing. But the reason why I try to get that is because most times the data that we get comes in this format. The template that most people use, I can say almost 75% of data tools that are sent for collection, they usually come this way. And then they will tell you at the end of this month, what was your yield? What was your yield? You know, so you will get this way. Then when you are running analysis, you now need to do some form of data transformation. So that's just a bit of what we did.
Okay, thank you so much. But I don't know if you can just repeat that Power Query step, please. Thank you.
You know, like we said from the beginning, it may derail us or it may take our time. All we wanted to do was just progress chart. So what's going to happen now, once we are done with the progress chart, if we have time, then I can go over it again. If not, we will always have time to come together in the Excel forum to come up with some topics that are of interest to us. Okay, I promise you that. So Samuel said, is asking, how did you bring about the Power Query? Yes, all you need to do, go to data. When you click on the data tab here, right here, you see this, this get and transform. You can get your data and run your query. You can see all this one, queries and connections. So this is the location where you can bring in your Power Query. Again, you say, how did you put the slicer and the headings changing? Well, like I said, slicers are available in pivot table and Excel tables. Okay, like we said, this is not a class for that. So let's just focus on the progress chart and then see how we can exhaust that. If we have time at the end of the whole thing today, then definitely we'll go around about it. But all I wanted us to know is that this is where we are going to start our progress chart from. But this is how the most data that we use come in this form. Okay, so I think we've been able to respond to those questions. If you still have any questions, you can send in the chat and then we'll respond after the presentation. So from Jennifer, are you ready? Can anybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. From Jennifer, are you okay? Are you ready?
Hello, fam. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sorry, I had like a bit of network, so I had to switch. I stopped sharing at one point.
Okay.
Right.
So take over.
You can still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right, thank you. So good evening, everyone. My name is Pharmacist Jennifer Smith. And first of all, I'd like to apologize. I'm in a noisy place. I'm actually out. So you may be hearing some background noise and music going on. So I'd like to apologize for that, first of all. Okay. So so now I would like to take everybody on how to create a progress chart. So like please can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, it's up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so like Pham mentioned earlier today in this class, where to do progress charts, and a progress chart is such as a chart like this on my screen. And it's an interactive way of presenting your data in the sense that it shows you how far you've gone to meet your targets. And this is very helpful, especially if you want to make certain decisions, certain evidence-based decisions. So here you're seeing a circle with segments and everything, and then you can also see that your 52% gone. So like in the circle, like how we have this circle, it's showing this like how much percentage of completed. So you can imagine if I'm going to manipulate this data a bit. So if I'm to change this to 30 to show 30%, the dial will also color will also show us 30% of the coverage, while the rest is blank. So this is what I'm going to teach us how to prepare. So I'm going to like use a different data sets to create this. So I'm going to have something like score. Sorry, excuse me, please. Ready? Yes. Which card? No, I did not buy. No. Okay, no problem. All right, bye. So sorry about that. I had a call from someone. I had to take the call. Okay. So okay. So right now I'm going to write this as score, and then I'm going to have a dump data here. And for you to have a progress chart to work, you need to have like the data that you are trying to present, and then also have the dump data, which is like the negative side. So like in a 100%, if we're presenting, like for example, score, how
Hello, Jenny.
yes,
I'm
and then I'm
Jenny.
going to have a dump data here. And for you to have a progress chart to work, you need to. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. So, okay, so then continue. So I'll try to explain that for your progress track to work effectively, you need to have like the total score of everything is supposed to add up to 100%. What I mean is, like, if you look at these two percentages here, if you add 52 to 48, it makes 100%. That's so that means when you have a percentage you're projecting here, the dump data is now what is left over from the from what you're projecting. Like when I had 30% here, the dump data changed to 70. So this whole part has not highlighted or boldly green is the dump data. That's the 100% minus our progress, our score, our progress percentage here. So in our example, which I'm going to use here, I'm going to, let's say, use 30%. Okay. Then our dump data will now be 1 or 100% minus what is there. So it's giving us 70% as our dump data. So if I change this to 20, it's supposed to give us 80% as our dump data. So in starting a progress chart, what we'll do is, first of all, click on the insert tab to insert a donut chart. You can find donut charts in the pie chart section. So it's a clean donut chart. Now it's giving me a blank space to work on. So the next thing I can do is I can actually change the size of this donut chart to make it like an equal a square. To do that, I need to click on the format tab. And this format tab only shows up when I'm clicking the particular shape I want to format. So here I have different format options, but what I'm looking for is to change the dimensions. So I want to change it to be such that the width is also 3 inches. So I'll just type it. I can either use this arrow to go down or just type in directly 3 in the box and it automatically comes a square. Next, I'm going to select the data, add the different data segments I would like to have on this chart. We can either do that by right-clicking, or when I click on design chart, I can click on select data. But if you right-click, it's supposed to show you like a whole list of menus that will pop up. But since I can't see that right now, I can click on it here. That's select data. So the first thing I see is this dialog box that opens up, and I click on add. At this point, I need to add, I don't need to add anything in my series name. I can leave that blank. And then my series value, I need to make sure that I have 1 in 20 places. So it already has 1 here already. So I can now add like 19 other ones. So I have 1 in 20 places, I think. Yes. So you can see what has happened in this our blank box. You can see the circle, different segmented circle. I has like one number is like from 1 to 20. Once I'm done with this, I click on OK. So at this point, I'm going to delete the chart's title as well as these numbers, which I do not need for the progress chart. So now I'm going to start the manipulation of the progress charts to make it what I want to do. So next, I'm going to click on the chart. Then I can double click on it. Or yes. So I double click on it so that this side bar shows up. So for this manipulation, I need to ensure that all the segments of this donut chart are highlighted. So first of all, I like to reduce the donut hole size. Ensure that when you're doing that, this bar graph option is showing. So it shows you details about the graph which you want to manipulate. So I'm going to reduce the donut hole size by either shifting this dial, using this arrow, or I can just type it in directly. I want it to be 50%. So I can just type in 50 directly like that, and it has reduced to 50%. So once I'm happy with the donut hole size, I go to now the color fill, the paint buckets to show the colors I want to have the donut chart to be. So first of all, since I have all these segments selected, I would like to give it a solid fill and give it a color. So it's selected blue. I can select a different color for it, like this color, yeah, for it. So now I'm happy with this, my different segments. This is what's going to show up like here in this example that's already here. So next I'm going to do is I want to add the data set. Sorry about that. So I'm going to add the data which I would like to have presented on the donut chart. So can you confirm you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Let me close the door. The noise is a bit too much. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so now I want to add this to ensure that this donut chart now shows the data that I would like to present. So next I'm going to do, I want to click on select data again. That's how I click, or I can actually be on, sorry, please. Okay, I can right click to show select data. Then I go to add again. So at this point, I would like to have this add is a series name. So I'm going to highlight these two cells so that the series name will be named what is up here. And in my series value, I select the data that is underneath there. Then I click OK. And OK again. So you're seeing the other charts, like this is the 20% that's been presented here, while this is 80%. So we'd like to harmonize these two charts so that it doesn't appear separate like this. We want it to be like one whole chart. So what I need to do at this point is I can right click and I'll change the chart type. So once I do that, it brings me back to this chain. There's a change chart type option. This is also the place where you can select graphs when you're preparing graphs for other data. So I'm clicking on combo, right? And then combo, we can combine two different charts and to be represented in one particular space. So for my series one, this is what I want to be represented as my donut chart. So I'm going to click this as donut chart here. While my score DOM, this is where the data is. I want it to be a pie chart, a regular pie chart like this. But then I would like it to be that it looks like this. So I'm making the one with my series title score dump to be my secondary axis. Then when I'm done with that, I should select OK. So one may think that the previous work that I had done before is not is hidden, but it's actually behind this pie chart that we're seeing here. So at this point, I would like to click on this blue segment, which represents our data, and I'll click on no fill because I want it to show what I've done before, the other segments I did before. Then this second half of the sheet, I click on it, of the graph, I mean, and now select on solid fill. But this time, I'll change the color to white and then increase the transparency either by shifting the dial, increasing the number here with the arrow, or I could just type in 20% directly or 25%. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, I can close this format sidebar. So this is I'm almost done with our preparing our progress chart. So we can test it and see whether it works. If I type 60% here, notice it moves to 60% and the running faded part is like the 40% that's not showing. So we're sure that the progress chart is working. So at this point, I can add a text box so that I can see what the shape or what this whole portion that is boldly colored represents. So here I click on shapes, I select my text box and make sure that it fits directly into the circle of this hole and the center of this hole and this donut chart so that it's fits in properly. Then I need to ensure I click on the outer box so that this blinking cursor doesn't show anymore. Once that is done, I click on equals to, and I select the data I want it to represent. So so now this 60% represents what this whole dial is showing. So at this point, I can manipulate it so that it fits in the center of my sheet. I can change the color to be the same as, sorry, I meant the color of the font color to be the same as the shape color, make it bigger, make it bold, right? To create more emphasis. I can also edit it so that it hides the outline of this text box. So I'm trying to find a way to get to my format shape, yes. So I like to have the no outline. Okay. Okay. So the shape should not have an outline. Should have no fill. I should have no outline, so that it looks like it's floating in the middle of the text box. So right now we're seeing it. It looks like it's floating in the middle of the text box of the chart. So let's just do one more test on it. So if I change this to 30%, notice that this number changes to 30, and this progress chart shows us this is how far 30% is. So this is how we prepare our progress charts. Any questions? Hello, fam. Was I audible to the end? Hello.
Hi. You've been audible all along. I don't know for the rest of the participants.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, I don't know. Are there any questions for me?
Yeah, Jelly, yes, you were very audible. Just at the point I wanted to answer you, and then my network snapped.
Okay.
Okay, somebody has a question. He
All
said he
right.
wants to ask if this is being done on Excel.
Yes, this is being done on Excel, Microsoft Excel.
Another question says, where do you find format shade?
Format shade. Not so sure I understand. Is it the format shape here?
Mr. James, you can unmute and speak, please.
Mm.
Or you can still send another chat to explain.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I'm just asking where, because normally I did not see where you find this matches. That's why I'm asking. But it seems that you go up there on the right ones and you come back and I just see the format here. So where do you
Format
exactly
shape.
find? Yes.
Wait, so you didn't see where where I selected format from before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the formats, like when you have a shape on your screen, normally format only appears, like for example, right now we're not seeing format in as any of the tabs on my menu bar. But minute I click on a shape, let's say this graph I have, a format appears here. So you can see the design. So I selected the chart. So the chart comes with two tabs. It comes with format and shape. Sorry, please, I'm moving this down. It comes with design and format. So when we design it, I can change I can change the way I want the charts to be. That's how to do with the chart itself. And then format is here. So format also has like options for color and everything else. Also, if I click on this text box, notice that only format will show. It's not a graph, so I don't have a design section for it. Also, I can find format if I right click on the shape. I want format and click on format shape here. Likewise, I can do the same here for the chart. So the format, once I do that, the format sidebar will appear. So does that answer your question? Mr. James, does that answer your question?
Okay, let's wait for him. Maybe he will type.
Okay. All right. So I'm seeing another
There's
question.
Yes, there is another question. It says, is it possible to get a step-by-step outline of the tutorial?
Yes, it's possible. We have videos which from Samsung we share. I know
That has been shared already.
Yes,
We
so
can
that has
still
been
share it
shared
again.
everyone. Yes.
It has been shared already, yes.
So that has
So
been
but
shared
if pharmacist Badejo is asking for the text, say step 1, do this, step 2, do this. Okay, we will attempt to do that.
Okay.
So we can write that down and then we share.
Okay, that will be possible.
Yeah. So the other question is, you made the series values to have 1 in 20 places. So is that the ideal, or can it be in 10s instead of 20s?
So it can actually be intense, but ideally it's may not really represent itself properly if you put it in tens. You can actually have more segments if you want to, because I know I've done it with like 25 segments and it still was presented well, but 20 is just an ideal number.
Okay.
Fam, do you have another response to it?
No, yes, it's correct. Even if you like, you will make it in 5 places. But note that if you divide 100 into 20, that means each slide represents 5 points.
5.
So if you are using 10, if you want to type 1 in 10 places, it means that each slide will represent 10 points.
Yes.
Again, let me also explain that you may not necessarily use one. You may use two, but make sure that it's two you use throughout. You may use five. Make sure you use five into how many places you want. If you use one and then you use different numbers, and maybe you type them, say you want to use 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, you will discover that some slides will be bigger than the others. So if you use one and into 10 places, the slides are of the same shape, and then each shape represents 5 points or 5 units. Okay, I think the other ones they're appreciating our promise of sharing the step-by-step guide, and then thanks for the clarity. Okay, I think that's all. Nobody else raised hand, and so we are good to go. Now, let's go into the conditional formatting, rather for conditional progress chart. Okay, so again, I'm going to use the one that we analyzed with. Okay, I think this is the one. Please, can you confirm if my screen is up?
Yes, your screen is showing.
Okay, so what we want to do now is, you see this point when of course, when you look at this chart, this progress chart is a bit different from the one that Jenny just demonstrated. You can see there are two different ways, two different charts, but they are all progress charts. Now, we always like to emphasize the fact that in Excel, there are more than one ways of achieving a thing. The process that she has taught you now may be different from the one that I want to teach if I want to produce this same type. Okay, so we are not saying there is only one way, but the ways that we present, you compare that way with what you know and choose which one is easier for you to understand and to operate. All right, so in our next lesson now, we want to see how we are able to, this is what we analyzed. We want to see if we click any of this, it will show that. There's an aspect that I'm not sure if she completed that, the names. So I'm going to also work on the names so that the label will pick the title of what we are displaying. Okay, now, so let's go straight to this point. Okay, so this is our pivot table, the one we are analyzed, and I'm coming to use this to create the conditional progress chart. Now, again, we are under the assumption that we all understand how to use the logic functions. So when we talk about logic functions, they include if, and, or. So these are the logic functions. And so this is also what we use in conditional formatting. You try to create an argument and then ask Excel, if the answer is yes, do this. If the answer is no, do this. All right, so this is what we are going to apply in the next session. Now, again, I want to give us a hint. When you are working with pivot table, understand there are two environments. Right now, we are looking at a spreadsheet, but there are two environments here. And you as the user, you can interact with the sheet on those two environments. The first environment is the pivot table that we have activated, and you interact with it via this pivot table field panel here. So anything I want to work on this pivot table, I work on them here, not here. The moment you click here, this pivot table field panel goes off because you have informed it that you are working on a different environment. Now, it will be easy for us to link the items on a pivot table to the spreadsheet if we want to work on that spreadsheet. So what it means is I may not find it easy to just go ahead and be doing something and then link that or the chart that I am building. Remember that the chart that we want to build now, I'm not going to use pivot charts. And that brings me to a definition that I would like to share. You know, what we are dealing with now is special charts. What are special charts? You can call them advanced charts. And they are the kind of charts that you cannot ordinarily go straight into insert here and get them. There's no way you can get these progress charts from all these charts items here. There's no way. So the special charts or advanced charts, they are the charts that combine operations, combine different charts to come up with what you want. Like you see, she combined donut charts, she combined with what's it called? Pie chart. So in order for us to work seamlessly, it's good for us to take this item, this value here, link it and bring it to a particular cell. Okay, so I'm going to just transpose this so that I want to create a space here. So what I am saying in essence is I'm going to say here, which is my E4 equals to this value. So if I change here, this value is changing with this. If I change here, this value is changing with this. So I can link this. I can use this to do anything that I want to do, like these special charts, without interacting with this directly. This cell here, which I am going to highlight yellow, is what is picking up data from the pivot table and dropping it here. Okay, so this is what we want. Now, again, we can label this as our value. And then we are going to have several values. Now, let's define the values that we are looking for. By the way, let me shift this. Let me shift it somewhere here. So the values that we are looking for are the values that are in red, the values that are in blue, and the values that fall within the green zone. Now, we can define the values that we want to display in red or we want to display in blue. So let's assume that any number that is less than 50%, let it be red. Let it be red. Now, we also want to say any value that is up to 50%, but less than 75%, you should bring that in blue. Now, I know that most of the things that we work on, most of the colors that we work with are red, yellow, and green. And then sometimes blue may come outside and to give excellent or so. The reason why I may not want to use yellow here is because when we create the progress chart, the value, we know we usually, like what from Jenny did, she changed the font color of the value to represent, to be in sync with the colors of the slides. So if we put yellow, for instance, if we decide to make this one yellow font, it becomes very faint. We won't be able to see that. Okay, so, but if we change it to blue or any other one, then it's easy to read. That's just the reason why. You may choose that and leave it in blank, just like this is. You may choose to use blue for this band. Sorry, you may choose to use yellow in this band and leave the font in black so that one can read that. Okay, so for us here now, we are going to use green for values that are above 75%. We can use this, or we can use dark green. So the value that are going to be here are values that are above 75%. And of course, 75% up to 100%, up to 75%, but less than or equal to 100%. All right, so this is what we are going to use to work on the next chart. Now I'm going to use these logic functions right now. I want to believe we are familiar. If we're not familiar, I think we may come up with another lesson where we can discuss only logic functions and other times for the other topics. So what I need to do here is I'm going to tell Excel, please look at the value here. Remember that this is our score. So let me just put score, the performance. So this is the performance, and we are going to tell Excel, please look at this point. What the value here is, drop it either here or here or here based on the value. So for this point here, we are going to say, if this value is, if this value is, we're looking at we need to create, there are times when you work out mathematics, you get points. So we are not going to specify 49%. So we are going to put 49.999 or the possible values. Again, we may decide to say, okay, as long as it is less than 50%, give us the value. So let's say if E4 is less than, Roy, can you meet them? From Jenny, please, can you meet everyone? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to ask Excel, look at E4, the value that is there. If that value is less than 50%, if it is less than, if it is less than 50%, then return that value, let that value be inside it. But if it is not that, leave it blank, leave it blank. Now I'm going to show something. You see, this is 50.4. And we defined 50, we define it to be 50. So we are not getting any value here because this value is above 50. So it means it should fall into this point. So we are done defining this. So let's go and define the values that will come here. We are going to use a combination of, I think there is so much noise coming there.
So I've been trying to mute him, but I'm not able to do that. Please.
Who is the person? We muted them and they unmuted again. All right, so sorry about that. So we are going to define the second. We have defined for red, and then let's go ahead and define for blue. Now, blue is going to be above 50, but less than 75. So we are going to use and together with the if. So equals to if, and of course, we are bringing our and. So what are the two conditions that must be met? The two conditions are, number one, this must be greater than 50% or equal to 50%. No, it must be greater than 50%. So if it is 50.1, it should appear here. Then the second condition is that this same value should be less than 75%. Should be less than 75%. So we have defined the conditions or the arguments for the and function. This value that we are looking at, number one, it must cross 50%. And as it goes, when it gets to 74.99999, it would stop. The moment it hits 75, it's no longer in this band. And so if that happens, what should Excel do? If that value falls within this range, return it, let it appear under blue. And then we are done. When we click OK, you see that this value falls within here, and so it has appeared here. So let's turn this to a percentage, and then let's make it one decimal place. So you must also do your best to see that this and this, they have the same number of decimal places. Otherwise, it may be misleading. Okay? You see that this is 50, even though that definition is still correct, but this and this, they are not the same. So you need to make sure that if you're using one decimal point here, it's also one decimal point here. Okay, so now let's see, assuming we come to North Central is 48.2, and which is the same thing as here. Let's give this one decimal point. You see that this value is here and this value is here. Now, you see this point now is telling me false. The reason is that the value here does not fall between here, and so it's false. Remember that logic is a yes or no answer, a true or false answer. So what we will need to do here is, if this place is false, rather than writing false, just leave it blank. Okay, so we have told it to leave blank. Okay, I need to close the. Now let's see if this, okay. So I needed to put a comma there in the argument. So we have defined this, we have defined this. Now I know that Southeast has a value that is neither here nor here, it is here. So what happens if that is the case? Okay, Northeast is 41. Is this Southwest? There is one that is, I thought we had E. Okay, we don't have a value that is in green. Okay, we are going to adjust that. That is going to bring us to another topic. So now let's go to, we need to have a figure that is here so that we can work with it. If we don't have it, we may not really appreciate it. So now let's go to our data sheet. Remember that this is where we generated the table, which is here. This is our original data. And then we just need to update this data so that some values can have, there were some changes that we made sometime. Let me see, I just need to pick that data. Okay, let's pick this one. Okay, let's pick this one from Edo and up to, so these were the changes that we made to get the values that fall into that green. So I'm going to select this and I'm coming to our data sheet here. Is it this one? Yes. So so we have updated this data now. So what it means is this, remember that this is our query. Look at it here, this is query. And query is getting its data from where we have modified now. So assuming that this is a data that we usually get from states, and then from time to time, they send it and we update. So we have updated it. All we need to do is to come over here and refresh it. So some of this data will refresh and pick the original. See now, it has refreshed. Okay. It looks like the entire, this thing now is 100. So we have 100. Let me see. I hope there's nothing wrong with this data. No, I think there's something wrong. Okay, yeah, it's actually supposed to be here. This date, this state should not have changed. So let's see. Okay, I made a mistake. What I copied and pasted values under state here. So there is an error here. I shouldn't have pasted that there. Let's see. This is where the error is. Okay. I'm supposed to, let's go back and pick our data. Where is it? Okay, yes. So I'm picking this, I'm dropping it. Let's go to here. This is where it's supposed to be dropped. All right, so we are dropping it right from data here, not where the states are. And so let's go back to our demo. Now we can now refresh and then let it pick the new data set. All right, so it has picked them. Let's see. All right, so these are the places we made changes. Now, after we have refreshed these, we need to now go and also refresh the pivot table, because remember that the pivot table was created from here. So now let's go to pivot table. I click on that pivot table here. I'm also going to refresh. So when I refresh, now let's see. Good. So you see that Southeast, the value is 85.1%. And so because we have not defined for the green, it's not showing. So what we need to do is to do the same formula that we use is what we are going to use here. So we are going to say if, now it's not, we are not going to use and. If we use and, it will be correct, but it's going to be a waste because number one, our value will not pass 100%, except if there is an error. So if you anticipate error, then you can use and, so that when it sees 101%, it will not show it. So we are going to say, if this value is greater or equal to 75%, remember that the value here is that this value must be equal to 75% or greater. Okay, so if E4 is equal or greater than 75%, what should it do? It should return the figure here because that is where it belongs. But if it is not true, leave it blank, close. And then we have Okay, I shouldn't have put this. All right. So you see, we have this, turn it to this, and then give it 1 decimal point. So right now we have set our values to fall into the respective color grades. For North Central is 48.2%, which falls under red by our definition. Here, I think here we need to put something here that it's equal to also 75, because if you get 75, you fall under the blue band. Northeast is 49.9, not up to 50. Northwest is 50.4, and it falls under the blue band. South is 67.3, which is still under blue. Southwest, and so on and so forth. Now, we are set now to use this data and create our conditional progress chart. Remember what Jenny talked about dummy. So here, I'm going to put a dummy value, which is going to be, now remember that we are going to use 1, 2, 3, and 4 series. These are going to be our data series. So they are going to be 4. And all the 4 must equal 100%. We can't get more than 100%, so it must be 100%. So what this means is this plus this plus this plus this is 100. So if we want to get the dummy, it's going to be 100% minus the sum of these 3. So here we are going to say this is equals to, it's either I write 1 or 100%. It's going to be minus the sum of all this 1, 2, 3. Close, close, and I enter. So we see this is 21.8%. So if we check again, this is 48.2, our dummy is 51.8. So in any case, the total must be 100. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my donut chart following the same process. But at some point, I'm going to be a bit different, not well detailed, as Jenny explained. So I'm going to select this. I am not going for that 20, okay? But I'm going to select this 4 series. The reason is that in FarmJed, the first one we did, all the slides, each slide was the same. They have the same value. So it was 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So the entire 360 degrees were shared equally. And then each one represented 5 points. But in this case, the values are different. The values of the slides are different, and they correspond to the values here. So that's why I'm not using 1 into 20 places. Rather, I'm going to use this to get it into 4 places. So I have selected this. Sorry. I'm going to select this. Yes, I'm going to add. And then this is where I am going to pick values from. So these are my 40. Remember that this was where Famdeni put 111 up to that 20, but my own is up to 4 here. So I click. So we have just 2 slides. The reason you are having these 2 slides are because out of the 4, look at the 4 series here, out of the 4 series that we selected, only 2 have values. Only 2 have values. And our value here of interest is this one, which is 67.3. So I can go ahead and clean this series so that I can recover some space. Then, this is where we apply our formatting. 67.3 falls under the blue band. So we can identify this as the value, the slide that is 67.3. So what we need to do is we can format the data point and give it a color. Let's fill it. We say we want a solid field and let it be blue based on our value here, based on our value here. All right, so this value, the sorry, I got knocked out. Hello, can you still hear me? Am I back?
Yes, you are. Go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
yeah.
Okay, can anybody remind me where you stopped hearing me? Hello? Where did I stop? Where did you stop hearing me? Hello?
Just at the point that you change the chart to blue so that it represents
Okay.
command.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So I have changed this to blue to represent the band where this value falls to. So I'm going to, okay, this is back. So I was going to explain that these do not hold here. We can reduce the size. It's 70, so assuming we reduce it like this, just depending on what you want, you can leave it this way. It's just by preference. So we have gotten for this. The next thing we need to do is, let me bring it over here and take this chart over here. The next thing we want to do is, let's get the value for red. So if we click here, we know that Northeast, North Central scored 48.2, which is red. Now, again, we see this is the side. This blue is the value that falls under red. So let's change it to red. Solid fill, change it to red. Now, we need green. So let's go to Southeast. I think Southeast scored green. Again, we change this color to green because it's going to change to solid green, solid, fill, and green. So this is a perfect place we have arrived. Now let's test it. North Central is red and is changing to red. Northeast is still red. Northwest, the value is under the blue. South is still blue. Southwest is green. Southeast is green. Okay, so let's make this one the very dark green, which corresponds with this. I hope so. Okay, yeah, it's the same. So it's now left for us to choose the color that the dummy value we take. You are free to choose whatever that you think is going to make your, if we choose this, it's too faint, you may say. Yes. If we choose this, just whatever you feel like using. All right, so let's see then.
Okay.
If this works for you, you can use it. All right, so this is how to create the conditional progress chart. The next thing we want to achieve here is to ensure that here, Dora, can you mute them? Okay, thank you. So the next thing we want to do is we want to bring in values, placeholder, so that placeholder we pick the values. So what we need to do is we're going to have three different either objects, either a text box or any object. One, they must be of the same size. They must be of the same formatting. So let's go here, over here. I'm going to use text over here. And I'm taking a little different route from what Jen took. Okay, she came here directly and came up to this point and then chose something. I'm coming over here to choose my text. And so I draw this text. And for her, she said you could place it inside here, but I'm placing it outside here. There are different ways to reach an end in Excel. So having selected this, I'm going to link it to a value. The value that is showing now is this green. So I'm going to click this green here and enter it. So it picks this up, and let's do some formatting. Okay, let's make it bold. Now, usually I want to be sure that the size can contain the value if it hits 100%, because you know, once it gets to 100%, it's more than two figures. So you should be able to carry that. Now, let me just say, if I put this here, will it be okay? I think it's okay. Then let me also just try and do something inside here. Assuming I put 100.1%. I want to be sure that the size can carry it. Then I get up to 16. 16 is a bit. So let's see if this works. If I want it to be very conspicuous, so I just need to do some adjustment. Let's see. Okay, I think this works fine. All right, so it means that all my text boxes will have to be this size. So I'm done with this. So all I need to do is to come over here and link it to this.
Inshallah.
I remember that it's 16. I remember that it's 16. So let me get to 16. Let me make it bold, because I know even if it gets to 100%, it will still accommodate it. Now I'm going to, let me drop this thing here. I'm going to duplicate this into 3 places. I'm going to duplicate this into 3 places. Control D, Control D. So I will have one for green. I will have one for red. I will have one for blue. Okay, right now, each of them represents the value here. So now I want to change this value so that it will pick the value that is in this place. So I'm going to change this and say, pick the value that is here. Of course, you know that is blank. So, but because I want to format it, I would do some selection here so that the value will come, the value for the red will appear. So let's say here, good, we have this, and this is what I want. So again, I know that 16 is what works for us. I know I need to embolden it, and I want this to bear red. Then this one, let this one be for blue. So again, I'm going to remove the link here and link it here. For me to also format this to be very unique in appearance and align with the blue, I need to have a value, try to reflect here, and I can see it and format it. So from our data here, we know that Northwest falls within there. So clicking this, I know that we need here to be 16 based on the formatting that we are used, and it's okay here. But I need to also change this to this blue. So the next thing is this one, which is our green. So I need to be sure that I have something that goes to green. which is this, and I need to change this color to green.
You are, mommy, you are.
Now we are done. So if we choose this, this changes to red, and then the value here shows and is red. The same thing here. Northwest changes to blue, and then blue is showing here. Then when we come to this point, it changes. So it's working fine. The next thing we need to do is to bring these things together, the three of them together, so that they can be in one place. So again, we described this in our other tutorials when we talk about dashboard construction, where you do a lot of insertion of our objects, you construct, you link, and you format. So this is what we are going to do. So I'm selecting these three all together, irrespective of where they are. I'm going to bring them together and they will be in alignment. This is nice. Sorry, I have to remove him and put him in the waiting room. I'm sorry about that. So the three of them are together, and so I come to my shape format over here. See this my alignment here. I'm going to work with this alignment. And so first, I'm going to bring all of them, align them center. And then next, I'm going to bring them to middle. So all of them are here. Now, because all of them are selected, whatever I apply applies to all of them. Any formatting I apply applies to all of them. So there are two more things I need to do. First, I need to be sure that it is open. I mean, it is not, it's transparent. There is no fill. And then the next thing I want to do is remove the shape outline, no outline. Then the next thing is I need to group them together, because if you don't group them together and you click, you are likely going to click the one that is on top. So let me group all of them together. See what's going to happen to this selection signs. So I'm going to group all of them together. It has expanded, which means they are all in one. So all I need to do is to bring it here. I'm bringing it here again. I'm going to select this same text box with the graph, the chart. So I'm going to hold down my shift button and click this. So I've selected the two of them. I'm coming to my align again. I'm going to align them to center, and I'm going to align them to middle. And then I'm going to group them. Okay, so even if I click here and I lift this, I'm lifting all of them. All right, so at this point, let's test our conditional formatting. If it is not central, it has changed, and the value is here changing. If it is northeast, it's the same thing. Northwest is blue. The blue is here, and we have the slides here. And so this is how this is done. Now, sometimes, if you don't want people to, you can go ahead to use this and cover what you are doing. And you may put this somewhere else and then let people see what you are doing over here. All right, so we did more of this during our training in dashboard construction and visualization. So the next thing that we want to do now is to get a label. So the label that we are going to get now, we want it to speak, we want it to tell us which zone this data is for. So in that case, let me pick an illustration here. Let me get a shape. And let me get maybe this. You can use any one. This requires some form of artistic skill, all right? So having done that, we are going to do some concatenation. Again, concatenation is a format, is a function in Excel that combines the content of cells into one. So we are going to demonstrate briefly how that works. Again, this is not it's not a lesson or a tutorial on that, but because we are using it, we just need to explain. So here we are going to get, let's say this is annual, or let's say this is malaria vaccination campaign score for 2020. Okay, we have said this, but what we want to reflect here is Southeast or malaria vaccination campaign score for 2022, or we can say this is Southeast score, however you want to coin the message. But now let's look for the one that is catchy. Let's say this is let's make it this way: Southeast. Okay, I think this is fine. Southeast malaria vaccination campaign score for 2022. I think this is good. All right. So what we are going to do now is here, I'm just going to highlight this point so that we know where we are going to link. So here we are going to use concatenate. Concatenating what? This value here. And what is it saying? It's going to show us this is a Southeast malaria vaccination campaign score for 2022. So we see that this is exactly what we have here. Sorry, let me just, okay. So this is what we want to be displayed here. All we need to do is to click here, link it here. When I come to my formula bar equals this, and then it picks it over here. So I can do formatting. Okay, it's getting away. Let's get, okay. Let's centralize it. Let's use a different, can we use white? So at this point, if you have very good artistic skill, you can walk around this and apply some beautiful formatting and use good color palette combination to do what you want to do. But this is the basic, all right? So if I change this to North Central changes here also. So this is North Central malaria vaccination campaign score for 2022. If I change it to Southeast, it changes here also. Okay, so this is where we end today's session on progress charts, both simple and conditional progress charts. Thank you very much. Are there questions? We can raise our hands or we can send our charts in the chat box and then we can respond to them. If we still have up to 10 minutes at the end of the questions, then we can attempt to look at the Power Query like I promised at the beginning. So over. Hello? Hello, everyone.
Hello, sir. Yes, we can hear you.
I
can hear you. Hello.
Okay, what was the last thing I said? I thought I was speaking, and suddenly I saw that I was muted. So I don't know when I got muted.
You were saying if anyone has a question to ask or things like that. So.
Okay, but I described the power query, right?
I didn't hear that.
Oh, I took time. I didn't know.
You were muted all
I was
along when
muted.
you were doing that. It's only the screen that's just showing. There was no audio.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I was muted. Oh, and I just ended it. Okay. So maybe we'll call it a day. We'll find time and organize this thing for the power query, please. I didn't know. Is that okay? Hello? Am I off again?
No, you are not, sir.
Okay, okay. So let's find time because it's almost time and we need to close. So just wishing every one of us a wonderful night rest and enjoy a very wonderful week ahead.